Hello and welcome to the latest Capital and Kayfabe. I am your co-host, JP John Paz from the Two-Man Power Trip, of course. Joining me is the political pundit, the author, the journalist, the former campaign manager, Mr. Jack Hunter. Jack, welcome in. How you doing?
Good to be with you. I think we got a lot to talk about today.
Yeah, we got a lot of topics. I wanted to start off maybe on a sad note, just because I wanted to talk about this legend's passing. But rest in peace, Mr. Bob Cottle, legendary territory announcer, legendary announcer just in general, classic voice, just obviously JCP, NWA, a little bit of Smoky Mountain. Just rest in peace to Bob Cottle. What an absolute legend he was. And here's a great picture of him and you.
I met Bob Cottle at NWA Legends Fan Fest in Charlotte. That probably would have been around, I don't know, 2006 or something like that. I'm just guessing. I'm probably completely wrong, but it's in the vicinity of that. Such a nice man. Let me start off by saying that the voices of my childhood, my favorite wrestling, Jim Crockett Promotions, were Tony Schiavone, David Crockett, and Bob Cottle. My favorite, everybody talks about the Saturday night show with TBS and all that. I like that, but the best Jim Crockett wrestling came on Saturday mornings in Charleston. It was their syndicated show, and Bob Cottle was all over that. That was his primary thing. He usually wasn't on the TBS show. To my recollection, it was that, at least in that era. So yeah, it is a friend that's about the same age as me. We were laughing that Dusty Rhodes would basically come out and cut a promo saying he was going to murder somebody, his opponent. And Bob Cottle would be like, and that's the way it is. Back to the matches. Like totally unfazed by it. It's funny. When I met him at this fan fest, I actually sat next to him during a Mick Foley Q&A. And his wife, and I researched this upon learning about his death. His wife, I guess, passed in April. And a lot of older couples, that happens. That happened with my great-grandparents for sure. It was like 3 months apart. But his wife was with him at the time when I met him. And she would say, who is that, Bob? Like, who's on stage? Because they were older then, 5 when he passed. And he'd say, like, honey, do you remember Cactus Jack? She'd say, yeah, he was a nice young man. He'd be like, that's Cactus Jack. That was just a sweet old couple. And he was also surprised that anybody knew who he was at this fan fest. Like Tommy Young was the same way at the early Charlotte Fan Fest that began around the early 2000s. He was like, people remember us. Like, I'm just the referee. I'm just the announcer. They expect you to remember Ric Flair or Wahoo McDaniel or somebody like that. Wahoo's no longer with us, but you know what I'm saying. Bob Cottle was legit surprised. I remember him walking around a corner with his wife where a bunch of old NWA fans were in line for something, and we all cheered him, and he looked shocked and in a good way, like, well, why are they cheering me? They know who I am. He just had no feel for how many people had watched him for so many years on their favorite thing in the world, which was Saturday morning NWA wrestling. So What a sweet man. I didn't know him personally. I'm talking totally as a fan, but sad to hear of his passing.
Yeah, R.I.P. Bob Cottle. What a legendary announcer. What a legendary voice. Just what a great throwback old school type guy. Just absolutely love Bob Cottle.
Yeah, and for the purposes of our podcast, which mixes wrestling and politics, Bob Cottle, before he became a wrestling announcer, worked for Senator Jesse Helms, the ultra-conservative Republican North Carolina senator. I can't remember exactly if he was a comms guy or something else, but he did work for him.
That's right. You did mention it to me. I had no idea that he had the political background. So he fits this show like a glove.
Right.
Bob Cottle.
For sure. Yeah, but I just think that's kind of interesting. I'd love to go back. There's probably not a lot of information on it. This was, probably in the 70s he worked for him, or early 80s. I don't know, but that happened.
Very interesting. So RIP, of course, to Bob Cottle. Politics and wrestling where they intermix, and that's where this show is. And when I saw a certain surprise entrant to the Last Is Now tournament for John Cena, I was actually thinking the same thing, because Dolph Ziggler covered a lot of conservative stuff. He would do some stuff for Fox News. I mean, he was doing a lot of political stuff. Haven't really seen him do too much politics lately, but he was into it. But he was in the John Cena Last Is Now tournament. I didn't know you had met Dolph Ziggler as well.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of meeting him. Glenn Jacobs was there, who's an old friend. We've talked about that. So, of course, anytime another wrestler who I've never met's around, I take advantage and exploit Glenn's friendship with me to beat this guy. So me and my girlfriend were at the Students for Liberty conference in the early part of, I guess that would be 2024. I don't know. I'm probably wrong. I think it might have been this year. Yeah, I think it was this year. But that was like January, February, something like that. And that's a libertarian youth organization. You got Young Americans for Liberty, Students for Liberty. This was Students for Liberty. Invited Nick Nemeth. Nick Nemeth was known to young libertarians because he was a regular on Kennedy, which used to be on Fox, and they do other things with it now. Glenn Jacobs appearing on Kennedy frequently was because of Nick Nemeth. He was there first. So, if people have asked me what his big return to that was on Raw or SmackDown. That was SmackDown, wasn't it? When he popped
No, Raw.
Up? Was it Raw? Okay. I'm thinking of Matt Cardona or Zack Ryder showed up on the other one. Yep. Right. But I just shared the picture again of me and my girlfriend and Glenn and Nick Nemeth. Had a great conversation with him. We talked about Rat and Motley Crue a lot, which is favorite subjects of mine. I remember something he said, and I don't think he'd get mad. I'm not trying to air dirty laundry or anything, but we're just asking about the TNA WWE relationship. And he said they wanted him to do something, they being WWE, but he only wanted to do it if it benefited TNA. Like, he didn't want to put himself out there, and he's been the WWE champion. He was there for so many years, and he had that attitude about loyalty to the people he's working to now, which I respect as a fan and just in general. Well, I think you saw an example of it benefiting TNA by him popping up on the main roster the other night. I mean, them having one of their top figures in TNA that was known by the WWE audience for years showing up again, I think is a good example of what he was talking about that night when we had dinner. I think it's cool as hell. I've always been a fan. Tell me if you think I'm wrong. I think in-ring ability that Dolph Ziggler, Nick Nemeth, is in the vicinity of a Shawn Michaels. He's that good and just was not booked the same. And a lot of us fans think he could have been world champion many times and a top guy till he retired, sort of a John Cena level kind of thing. That's just not the way he was booked. And that'll be a shame, but he's got a great career that's still going, still looks like $1 million and as great as he ever was.
Yep.
And I enjoy watching him in TNA. It's part of the reason I tune into TNA these days is to see Nick Nemeth.
Great hand, great wrestler, great surprise. They did say for the John Cena The Last Is Now tournament that there would be surprises. Obviously, he was one, Zack Ryder was another. So that was cool. Very different. Got a nice pop coming out. Good match with Solo. Took the L, which doesn't hurt him or anybody else, but just kind of perfect the way they booked it and put that thing together.
And I like that most of us, including myself, were expecting Joe Hendry. You'd already seen Matt Cardona, so here comes Joe Hendry. And that would have been cool, but like we've seen him do some mix it up with WWE. Nick Nemeth has been a while, and that was even more special, I think.
When you're looking at this tournament, who's going to win now? Because now Gunther is back in the fold. You have Bronson Reed's going to be in the tournament. Obviously, LA Knight has moved on to the next round. Jey Uso has moved on to the next round. So who's going to win this damn thing?
I think Dominic Mysterio is getting back his belt, and I think Gunther's going to be the last opponent for John Cena. What related? Because they all kind of happened with this. They were all Cena-centric. So
Yes. Do you think that he had 2 losses in a row to end the career for Big Match John?
I don't think it matters. I think Cena talked, or Triple H talked about an exchange between him and Cena when they started this whole retirement year. And Triple H is like, well, we can't mess this up. And Cena's like, how in the hell could we mess this up at this point? I think Cena's right. Like, whatever people want to say about the heel turn, well, I actually liked it. I guess I'm in the minority on that. But it doesn't matter. His legacy, they could S the bed from here on out. It's all good.
So Dominic versus John Cena in a rematch for the Intercontinental title will be at Survivor Series. And then, of course, the big one, the big main event of the night, the War Games match on the men's side, CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, the Usos, Jimmy and Jay, and the Tribal Chief Roman Reigns versus the Vision, Breaker, Bronson Reed, Logan Paul, Drew McIntyre, and the returning Brock Lesnar. What do you think about this War Games match? This is stacked. This is loaded.
It's star-studded. I mean, you'd have to go back to like Horseman versus Dusty and Road Warriors or something to think about the star power in something like this. And it's a Survivor Series, so it's not like Team SmackDown versus Team Raw and all that stupid crap. So we're way past that. This is something I want to see based on the people in it. I think the baby faces are going over. I think the heels losing might be the beginning of Braun Breaker thinking about maybe doing something on his own. Braun Breaker gets cheered. He's got to be a baby face at some point. Am I wrong about that?
Oh, yeah. Definitely gets a pop. And definitely could be a baby face.
But maybe them losing and how they lose and who gets pinned is the beginning of that somehow. Could be wrong, but that's the way I'm looking at it as a fan who kind of pays attention to their booking decisions. We all do. So
that match, are you looking forward to the most? Are you looking forward to Cena versus Mysterio? What are you looking forward to the most for Survivor Series?
It's different. So just the star-studdedness, I don't think that's a word, but I'm going to use it right now, of the men's War Games match is great. I like the women's lineup too. But you got to know in his heart of hearts, Cena wants to put over guys going out. So Dominic is a star right now, but he's a young star. I think John Cena's gladly going to lay down for Dominic, get his belt back, whatever that looks like. I think he'll do it for Gunther too, and be glad about it. Am I wrong to say that? Does he beat Gunther? I don't know.
I wouldn't have him lose to Gunther.
No.
I mean, I wouldn't have Gunther lose to him. I mean, I would have him job out to Gunther. Gunther needs the win.
Yeah, there are exceptions to the rule. Like I was glad Sting won in his last match, and he had to be talked into it. Is from what I've read and saw. And I get that he's an old school mentality. You put over somebody, leaving, exiting, when you're exiting. Ric Flair lost, but Shawn Michaels in what I consider his real retirement match, in 2008. Cena's got that old school mentality. I just think the Cena situation, the Sting situation are kind of different. It was evident that Sting had given back everything just by showing up in AEW and doing what he did at his age. So they had to twist his arm to get him to win. Cena, a lot of people would criticize him over the years and be like, oh, it's all about him. I don't see it that way. And if he wanted to put a button on that at the end and be like, no, I'm giving back. I'm for the young guys. I think that's cool. That Javon Evans match with Gunther the other night. Oh my God. Was that Cena's idea? He announced it in the ring, but I would not be shocked at all if he just went to Triple H like, this is what we're doing, because Javon Evans is awesome and he's brand new. And Gunther's kind of brand new in terms of WWE. So, he's been around in wrestling, but you know what I'm saying. But yeah. I think Cena loses. This is going to be great. You got to get a send off, and that's appropriate for his career. And I think that's what he won. I'm not trying to speak for him, but as a fan, that's how I see it.
Very interesting kind of directions they could go. Obviously, with Cena, the last is now a tournament. We're kind of guessing Gunther. We don't know who's going to win quite yet, but we'll find out on December 8th for sure because that's the finals. And then Cena's last match will be on December 13th in Washington, D.C. So we'll kind of obviously we'd be learning more as the weeks go on as to who will face him. We're kind of guessing, though. We kind of both think it's going to be Gunther.
Yeah, he makes of the participants they have listed that we know of. That's what makes the most sense. And where people are in their careers and what they can do or not do. Now,
Blood and Guts just happened, which is interesting because isn't Blood and Guts usually in May? So now this time around it was in November, or usually it's more towards the spring. Now we're hitting the fall, and that's Blood and Guts, and then there's War Games right there. But kind of interesting, maybe they're doing a little bit of a little prodding back at WWE. Do you think that at all? Maybe that's why they kind of pushed. Blood and Guts to so close to War Games? Do you think?
Yeah, and I don't blame them. It's business. I think Hell Froze and Tony Khan did an interview with Ariel Helwani, who were bickering not too long ago, and Helwani even acknowledged that. I've listened to parts of the interview, but there was one part where Tony Khan was asked about the WWE being predatory or, trying to mess up AEW's business with how they book pay-per-views and shows. And Tony Khan's like, that's business. And he talked a little bit about Jim Crockett and Vince McMahon and that history and all that kind of stuff. I think Tony Khan put on Blood and Guts right before WWE's War Games. And, Nick Nimitz said it on Busted Open. He's like, that's the bloodiest national television wrestling show he's ever seen in the United States. It was. I think it was Tony Khan being like, not only is our War Games, which they call Blood and Guts, better, this is how different it is than anything the WWE is going to give you. And I thought it was cool. It was fun being there in person in Greensboro. We talked about that last week, but I'm excited about Survivor Series and the War Games matches. I'm not expecting what I saw at Blood and Guts. They're two different things, and that's okay.
Are you looking forward to AEW Full Gear coming up on Saturday in New Jersey?
I'm very excited about that. I'm always excited about any AEW pay-per-view because they always deliver. And I think Hangman's going to retain against Samoa Joe. I think Samoa Joe is a good guy for him to beat twice just to sort of cement him being the champ and, representing AEW. I know I'm a bigger Hangman fan than you are.
Yeah.
I think that's what's going to happen. I think I'm trying to remember the rest of the card now. I'm just thinking about the world title stuff.
Statlander against Monet.
I think Monet wins. I think she adds another belt to that, array of belts held by shirtless, muscled up men. So, what I think they do with her, she wins the world title. Look, you got to put the world title of that company on Monet at some point, right? She's never held it. So you do it now. There's nothing against Chris Statlander. I was happy when she won. I was surprised, and I like her. I'm a fan, but in the grand scheme of things, you want to do that with Monet. And when she has the world title, what I would do is that's when she loses the TBS title and the next title she has, and the next title it gets all the way down to the world championship. Let's see who takes it off of Monet. But like she's on a downward spiral with all these belts. I don't know if her schedule's such she could fly all over the place and defend at smaller indie shows or whatever. But that's what I would do. But we'll see what happens.
You got Brodito versus FTR. You've got Kenny Omega and the Jurassic Express versus the Young Bucks and Josh Alexander. All the stars are going to come out for this one. Darby versus Pac, Moxley versus O'Reilly. Got a decent little card shaping up.
I think that Brodito retains. I think there's momentum there, and it's something where you put these guys together to see if it would work, and it has. It's working right now. I liked Bandito before. I liked Brody before. I like them a hell of a lot more together. It's more interesting. FTR is my favorite tag team in wrestling right now. If they won, I wouldn't get mad, but if I'm FTR or Tony Khan, I would want Brodito to continue as champions. When Hurt Syndicate won, I was like, yep, that's what makes sense. Put the belts on them. And when Brodito won, it kind of feels that way too. The thing that feels wrong in all this is how FTR is just kind of not where they should be and haven't for a long time. But that's a long-term thing. We're just talking about Full Gear. The Kenny Omega and Jurassic Express and that with Josh Alexander, I think, is what's going on there.
Yep.
I think the Young Bucks are slowly turning babyface again. And Omega's part of that equation. We'll see what happens there. But I think that's the story more than who goes over or who wins. I assume that Omega and the Jurassic Express probably will win.
When you're looking at when they do matches for money, like they're saying the match is worth $100,000, or
right.
For instance, that 6-man tag is worth $1 million because it's a trios match. Do you like that or not like that? Because it's almost like maybe the pay window years ago when Dusty used to joke around about it, like we were kind of thinking more in kayfabe terms, but almost believed it. It's like, oh, okay, they probably make money on who wins and who loses. We know now that that's so silly and everything, and so totally not true, and they're not really going to get $1 million for the win and stuff like that. So do you like that they do that in AEW all the time? Because there's another match on the card too that's for money.
I like it to the degree that they use the money gimmick. And what I mean by that is that they're not really getting $1 million or $200,000 or whatever. They're under contract. They're getting paid already. We know that. But we also know that all of this is choreographed and it's professional wrestling. So what? Right. If they do something with the money gimmick, it's fun, whether it's Harley Race back in the day or the Bucks being broke and really needing the money. But other than that, they don't do a lot of stuff with it.
And the gimmick, obviously, is the Young Bucks need the money. And like that, they do funny skits with the Young Bucks and them kind of being broke and need the money, and they're down on their luck type thing.
Yeah, and that's all fun. That's professional wrestling. That's AEW telling stories as they do all the time and are often accused of not. But yeah, so doing it with the Bucks. What's the other money match? Does that even make sense at all? Who is that?
It's on the pre-show, so it's $200,000 4-way tag match for. The winner gets that cash prize. It's the Acclaimed, who are not wanting to be called the Acclaimed, which is an interesting angle there, versus the Bang Bang Gang versus Big Bill Brian Keith versus the Outrunners.
I want the Outrunners to win that, and I think the money thing is kind of beside the point. I mean, right. I don't know if the Outrunners go out and buy hookers and throw some party like Spicoli in Fast Times or something. That would be fun. I don't know.
Yeah.
What did Spicoli say he wanted to do in his dreams if he won the he was going to party with the Stones and take the bikini girls with him to whatever. Do something like that with the Outrunners. That's what they need to be doing.
One of those things where with winning the money, doing that angle, we know it's kind of silly unless they do a storyline with it and kind of progress the story, make it have some stakes, then it could be fun. But otherwise it could end being kind of a little lame where it's just like, oh yeah, they won $400,000 for winning a singles match, or sometimes it can come off a little bit lame.
Somewhere in my collection of things, I have a JBL dollar. Remember when they had the JBL money?
Yes.
I still have one of those somewhere. So that's a little different than what we're talking about, but it just came to mind.
I have the Okada one as well.
Oh, that's cool.
The Okada money. Yeah. I actually got that from, it was Hammerstein 2014-ish.
Oh.
When New Japan versus Ring of Honor. Yep.
Nice. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Back when
the only Hammerstein show I ever got to go to was one of the WWE One Night Stands or ECW One Night Stands under WWE. I think it was the second one when Rob Van Dam won.
Yes.
Magical place. You got to go more often than me because of where you live, but pretty cool.
Yeah, really cool venue. And obviously they're going to be running there very soon. In December, they'll be running at Hammerstein again. Like, I guess it's their annual like Christmas thing now.
AEW.
AEW, yep.
Yeah, they did that last year, and I thought it was awesome. If they could, like the WWE, even they don't do house shows, they do the holiday tour. So you still got that. And I like this, hopefully a tradition of AEW running the Christmas time, Thanksgiving, whatever, around that time at Hammerstein. It's great.
So let's do a little thing here as far as the political world, but it's going to tie it into some wrestling. This person versus this person. You have to take a side. I guess see whose side you're on. So you got Trump on one side, who some people say is turning heel a bit, but Trump's on one side. MGT is on the other. Whose side are you on? The Rhino, as he calls her, RINO, Republican in name only, versus Trump. Who do you got?
It's Marjorie Taylor Greene all day long. I don't have to think a second about it. The Rhino in that situation is Donald Trump. Donald Trump said he was going to do A, B, and C. He was going to release the Epstein files. He was going to have Doge and cut all this stuff. Going to be America first, not start or be involved in any endless wars. Marjorie Taylor Greene still stands for all of those. Trump has changed his mind and listening to Lindsey Graham. So how is she a rhino for doing what he campaigned on and now doesn't want to do anymore? And I voted for Donald Trump, and I voted for him for the reasons that Marjorie Taylor Greene got behind him in the first place. So I'm sorry, his ego and his personality cannot supersede reality. And I say that as somebody who's eager to cheer for Trump when I have reason to. And no, Marjorie Taylor Greene's the baby face in that. He's the heel for sure.
Is Massey, Thomas Massey, is he now a rhino, as he was being referred to as well?
Yeah, same thing. Right? Same thing. Massey is more America first. He's more MAGA than the president of the United States, Donald Trump. And we could do it issue by issue all day long. Who said it? The Robert Barnes, who's sort of a conservative lawyer, tweeted or shared on X the other day that Thomas Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene have threatened the deep state more than Donald Trump ever has. And he was talking about the Epstein files alone. That is an absolutely true statement. The deep state does not want these files to come out because they will show, as Thomas Massey has already said, Epstein's relationship to intelligence communities, including the United States and Israel's. Now, there's a provision in releasing the Epstein files that the DOJ can withhold Epstein's relationship with the intelligence communities in the name of national security. Massey has made the point that even though that's true, and that's the only way they were able to pass this, it went through the House, Senate, the president's already signed it, releasing the Epstein files. Massey has made the point, he did it in a press conference yesterday, because there are thousands of victims of Epstein, no matter what they try to do, some of those connections and information is going to come out. The DOJ can't keep a lid on all of the girls he abused and put politicians and others in compromising positions with underage girls is what we're likely. He can't contain all that to learn that he was doing that at the behest of the Israeli government or the U.S. government or something else. So that's what they're scared of, is they want to cover their own ass. So Massey's the baby face and letting people know about that. And Trump's been a heel right into the minute. As we're recording this week, he changed his mind, urged Republicans to vote for the release, and signed it. That happened on Monday. We're recording this on Thursday. So that's how quick he turned. If anybody thought he was a baby face, that's how quick he switched. So
before I get back to some feuds here, maybe you take it. So Epstein Transparency Act, the Epstein files, it's going to be released. Like, what can we expect from this?
It's supposed to be released in 30 days. It's signed, sealed, and delivered. It's passed. We're past that part, and in 30 days, we're supposed to know. So we'll see what that looks like. Monica Lewinsky tweeted something, her controversy involved the Starr report in the 90s. She's like, wow, once they decided to release this, it was out in 48 hours. I wonder why this one's taking 30 days.
Right.
Monica Lewinsky, fair.
Are they hiding something?
Well, they're always hiding something. That's what this whole controversy is about. I find it sickening that House Speaker Mike Johnson, the Republican majority leader, fought so tooth and nail to not let this happen, and on the last day wanted to do all this stuff. I think it's reprehensible.
When you're looking at this, right, are we going to discover anything? Because it seems like so far the Dems, which is crazy, because my friend was thinking like, hey, wouldn't Trump say he doesn't want it out there to get the Dems to flip and say they do want it out there? So now he did that and they flipped. And so they're in on it. But now we're finding out that he was giving money to Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, the Clintons, Obama, like finding out not good stuff about the Dems as far as Epstein's concerned. Like, so they kind of outed themselves.
That's what's so amusing about it. So Trump derangement syndrome is a couple things, but one of them is like, I hate Trump so much, I'm going to get this behind this thing that ultimately really might hurt my party.
Yes.
You would like to think they're just a moral person that wants justice for these girls that were harmed when they were underage, and that matters more than Democrat, Republican, or anything. Ideally, that's what people should want. I think that's where Thomas Massey is honestly coming from. I think that's where Democratic Representative Ro Khanna is coming from. I think they're genuine in that. But that said, Joe Biden and the Democrats, when they were in control, had all this Epstein information for 4 years and didn't give a damn about it. Why? It had nothing to do with Donald Trump. If they had information about Donald Trump and Epstein, that would have been used during the 2016 cycle.
Of course.
I mean, they made up stuff about him colluding with Russia and stuff. If they had something real, they would have used it. I believe Ghislaine Maxwell, the late Virginia governor of Epstein victims, who said Trump wasn't around any of this stuff, or she never saw it. Like, I believe that. And I don't say that out of defending Trump. I just care about the truth and what's real. But we do know that Epstein gave money to Hakeem Jeffries, and other prominent Democrats were involved. So it is kind of funny that Democrats have just, because Trump was against releasing the Epstein files, what you just said, they were for it. All of a sudden, that's the only reason they were for it, is because they think they could get at Trump somehow. But now that it's passed, let's see what it looks like in real time. And more than one Democratic voice has brought this up, so we'll see.
Do you think he was working them at all? Like pretending he didn't want it out just to get it out there? Do you know what I mean? Like he'd reverse psychology them?
I mean, he had a plane called the Lolita Express, and everybody knew it. Like, he wasn't exactly hiding what he was. He said in a Vanity Fair, talking about Jeffrey Epstein, said in a Vanity Fair interview years ago, I know some don't approve of my lifestyle, but this is how, like, you know, the wealthy and the powerful lived in pagan times, or something. Like, he was totally fine being the older, wealthy, powerful man that had sex with 15-year-olds. Now, everybody knew what he was. They knew what that island was. The plane was called the Lolita Express, once again, the novel by Nabokov about the man falling in love with a 13-year-old girl. It's a classic, but that's what it's about. The Police wrote a song about it, or in part. I think the politicians and celebrities, I think a lot of them went to his parties and did things and were not involved in all that. I don't think Chris Tucker did anything when he was on that plane and they flew to Africa for whatever charity that was, and other people. But I think there were a lot of people that were and went to him specifically for that. It's a party. I mean, what did Donald Trump say about this guy years ago that Democrats have latched on to? Like, oh, Jeffrey Epstein, he's my friend. He likes beautiful women. He likes them on the young side. Trump said that. Like, that's out there. So people knew.
Yep.
People knew. And, you know, the 80s were a different time, maybe the 90s. None of this was ever okay. And it's illegal, obviously, if you're under 18. But they knew, and to the degree they were involved, I mean, that's what they don't want anybody to know about right now.
Yep.
So
crazy. So the House Democrat back in 2019, Stacey Plaskett, was caught during basically a hearing, caught texting him. So, I mean, they're unearthing stuff that is just absolutely insane. What the hell is she doing? Why is she texting him? How come she's not in trouble? How come she, like, what the hell's going on? This is insane. This was during a congressional hearing.
And how is she morally okay knowing who this man is and what he represents? I guess money talks. And that's what she wanted for him. But yeah, well, what is that? And we're learning about it. You know, this works in reverse. This is how people's political can overlap or overcome their morals. Do you remember when Roy Moore, the Alabama guy, was running for the Senate about 10 years ago?
Yes.
And most conservatives were behind this guy, and it came out that, like, he was going to the local mall and flirting with 13 and 14-year-olds, and some girl that was like 14 years old, he was calling her out of school. We come get her out of class. Like, he was that guy, right? And lots of Republicans were like, oh, this is just propaganda. We want this guy to win. No, like, and there were like 15 examples of this, of him messing with young girls, right? Like, this guy was obviously doing something wrong, but there were Republicans who were like, this is just propaganda. They're lying about Roy Moore. He's our guy. Well, how many Democrats were like that with Epstein, or Republicans even, or anybody, where just what this guy and the wealth he had and their own political identity overlapped? Hey, maybe it's wrong and we shouldn't be supporting this guy who sleeps with underage girls. So, yeah.
Yes. And it's crazy that she's doing that during a hearing. How do they get connected? Like, man, his influence goes so deep, and it's, you know, it's despicable, really.
And yeah, and he didn't inherit his wealth, is my understanding. Like just all of a sudden he became fabulously wealthy. And it's around the time he's suspected of working in intelligence communities, like
Yes.
and doing all these illegal sex things. And he finally got convicted offender that one time and was like in the most luxurious prison ever for no time. What is that?
Yep.
So
It's crazy, like who he knew, and maybe even some experiments that he was up to, and the Harvard connection where the guy from Harvard, Larry Sampson, he quits.
right.
He's the president of the school because of his connection. He had his own office at Harvard. He, obviously there's that famous picture of him with the Harvard sweatshirt, but legitimately he had his own office. They call it Jeffrey Epstein's office or Jeff's office or Jeffrey's office. So absolutely crazy that just flaunting this nonsense, and he's able to go around and kind of do whatever. It's nuts.
My friends on the right, my conservative friends, and I'm not much of a conspiracy-minded person, when like Sound of Freedom came out, a great movie a couple years ago about rescuing children from sex trafficking, one of the Angel Studios productions.
Yep.
I watched it and reviewed it. It was great. A lot of my right-wing friends were like, well, there's these elites and they are pedophiles and they have child sex parties. I'm like, come on now. Like that stuff happens, but like, what are we talking about? When I saw the lefties get mad at Sound of Freedom, I'm like, why are y'all mad at this movie where this like heroic guy rescued girls from sex trafficking, or boys too? Like, what is that? So that piqued my curiosity. Then we learned about like Diddy and what was going on at his parties. I'm like, damn, are they right about this? And then we get to Jane and like all the elites are rushing to cover up for this guy that's sleeping with these kids. What is all that? Are my right-wing conspiracy-minded friends right? Should I be ashamed for not listening to them more? I don't know. I'm always like, what's in front of me that's clearly wrong or effed up that we need to go after? And then we talk about other stuff, but maybe they were right all along, and I was wrong. I don't know.
Crazy stuff. And then just throw in there this little Diddy, this little, not literally P. Diddy, but this little controversy, the money laundering thing with Zelensky's camp over with Ukraine. The conspiracy theorists, if you will, those people on the right, they were calling this, years ago, saying this is a money laundering scheme. I mean, it is so obvious that it is, but now they're finally coming out and be like, oh yeah, Zelensky's right-hand man, he was money laundering. It's like, no crap. I mean, come on, right? I mean, this is pretty obvious.
It's obvious, and why did they cover for Zelensky? Because politically in the United States, elites were on his side. The man came to Congress and spoke to Congress begging for money. Part of why Trump campaigned is that he was going to cut off the funds and get this war done in 24 hours. Remember he said all that? Even when I voted for him, like he was not going to get it done in 24 hours, but maybe that's what he was doing. I know he's meeting with Putin now, and that's good. I'm talking about President Trump, and that's good. But like that money's still a-flowing. He cut it off for the entire Washington establishment lost their mind, and now it's American dollars are still going over there. The money laundering, like, duh. Yeah, but this is like Epstein. Elites cover up for these people.
And it's crazy that the right is or the left is like kind of covering for Epstein. Well, maybe it wasn't that bad, and like saying weird stuff like that. It's like, wow, you guys are insane. Like literally, you guys might have to get checked here. The white coats might need to come to your house and bring you in to a nice padded cell.
Their political identity trumps their basic morality. I was shocked when Charlie Kirk was assassinated to hear people I know who vote Democrat who were somewhere between, well, stuff happens. He shouldn't have said what he said too. He had it coming. That's right. I'm like, your attitude should be, you should not be murdered for your speech.
Right.
If Bernie Sanders was assassinated, my first thing to say is like, oh my God, how could this happen? He's a politician who has opinions and people elected him, and he's dead because somebody didn't like what he stood for. I couldn't imagine getting to the morally depraved point of, yeah, he was a socialist. He had it cut. Like, no.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But I saw so many Democrats doing that with Charlie Kirk. So I know sometimes when you ask me a question, John, I go off onto something else, but it's to make the point.
Yep.
They're not going to care about Epstein if it trumps their political identity, even though he was awful things. I'm not saying everybody, but there's a certain type of political animal, and that's the people we hear for and watch on television, podcasts, and whatnot. A lot of them are like that and are in office. So that's what that is.
We talked about this a little bit last week, too. There's another feud they wanted you to kind of pick a side, and I know what side you're going to pick, but I wanted to bring this up again because it's just hilarious. It's Tucker Carlson and Mark Levin, And Mark says he didn't want to platform Tucker, but when you look at it, Tucker is at least 5 times more popular. If you just look at all the socials and YouTube, he's at least 5 times more popular. The ratings, all this other stuff. Tucker, and I know he's independent, and Trump took that shot at him. He goes, "Oh, he's not on a network anymore." The independent guys are actually more famous and more popular than the network guys right now. Anyway, the network is basically Zill, or Zip, really, kind of nothing. So when you look at it, and Levin says that, it's almost like, is this guy crazy? I mean, like, Tucker's way more popular than him, way more well-known, way more followed.
That shows you how jealous and out of touch Mark Levin is. I think somebody posted after it was announced that Mark Levin turned down debating Tucker Carlson at a Turning Point Day event.
Yes. Yep.
Levin's reason was, I don't want to platform Nazis, and he wants to come on my show just to increase his ratings. Somebody took what Mark Levin said, or the news of that, and coupled it with a screenshot. I think it was of Spotify. And Mark Levin, I think, had 700,000 followers or subscribers. Tucker Carlson had 5 million. If that gives you one gauge on how much bigger and popular Tucker is. Tucker also has a younger audience than Mark Levin. Megyn Kelly said something like, Mark Levin, why don't you debate Tucker Carlson? It'll be the first time in a while somebody under 70 got to hear from you. Because Turning Point USA is a youth event, and Tucker Carlson has a younger. The reason, in part, from my view, and I have a piece coming out about this at the American Conservative. Nick Fuentes is awful. He's a self-identified white nationalist and anti-Semite, and people point that out, me included, and we're at a point where he's got a bunch of young men followers. His audience is huge. So Tucker invited him on a show, talked to him about why collective guilt is bad and all this stuff, and I think Tucker did the right thing. I don't think screaming at this guy will do anything except make that audience even larger.
Right.
So I see what he's doing. I see why it's controversial. My gut level is like, why the hell is he having Nick Fuentes on? And then I watch the interview. I'm like, I see. As it relates to Mark Levin's out there screaming, I'm not going to have Tucker Carlson on. He's a Nazi. He promotes Nazis. And if you're friends with him or anybody that, stands up for this, I'm condemning you too. Like, anybody that even likes Tucker is condemned by. So President Trump was asked recently, I know this is going to come out next week, by a reporter, what do you think of Tucker Carlson and him interviewing Nick Fuentes? Trump said something to the effect of, I don't know much about Nick Fuentes, but Tucker Carlson can interview whoever he wants and let the people decide, That's what Tucker said. Trump said. That's not a denouncement or a rejection of Tucker Carlson, which Mark Levin has said is a requirement for dealing with him. With Mark Levin himself. Whoa. So is Mark Levin now going to denounce President Trump as he vowed he would do for anybody else who was buddy with Tucker Carlson? No, because he knows he needs Donald Trump. His dying neoconservative brand that they're trying, he and Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz and others are trying to graft onto MAGA. And with some success, seeing how Trump's behaving right now and who he's rubbing shoulders with. He needs that. He will not denounce Trump. Trump could probably walk around with a swastika on his head, and Mark Levin would not denounce Trump because that's how much he needs to stay relevant. So Mark Levin's sad. He continues to have less and less influence every day. Tucker's getting bigger than ever and doing genuinely interesting stuff, even sometimes if I disagree with it. But I'm me, he's him. I agree with President Trump. Let him interview who he wants, and I can think what I want about it, as can you and everybody else.
So coming up this weekend, obviously, when people will be listening to it, it'll be past. But GCW, Game Changer Wrestling, has a big show at the American Dream Mall, Dream On, the same day, obviously earlier in the day, right down the street. They're not really right down the street, but close to the venue in the Prudential Center in Newark for the AEW show. So obviously that'll be a big focus this weekend, AEW, GCW, and New Jersey in general for the wrestling scene. What I wanted to mention to you is something that we kind of talked about a little bit last week when we were off air, and it just kind of boggled my mind. So, like, okay, GCW, AEW, they kind of know what direction they're going, and you kind of see where they're headed, and it seems like, a solid footing. TNA, now it seemed like they were, because it said they were going to have a TV deal announced by the end of 2025. We'll see if that happens. You don't have much time left, but we'll see if that happens. Seems positive in that regard. But what the hell were they doing with Mike Santana? First of all, they had Bound for Glory. He finally wins the title, probably a few months late because he was so hot when they had the Slammiversary show. He should have won it then. But then they kind of kept it going. He wins it Bound for Glory. Still a great reaction. The crowd was still hot. Great moment with his daughter. I mean, they did everything good up to that point. But then afterwards, they have no show to follow it up, which is weird. So a month goes by. There's no TV. The big moment happens. That would be like having WrestleMania and not having the night after WrestleMania where thousands of fans show up and go nuts and they basically just go crazy because you just had WrestleMania and they're blowing off some steam here and they're going to start a new cycle of storylines. I say that to say there is no show after Bound for Glory. So then Mike Santana is the champion, but doesn't defend the title for a month. He wrestles Ryan Nemeth. It basically goes 2 minutes. We have this NXT invasion going on. Frankie Kazarian cashes in his trophy. And then 54 seconds later, we have a new champion. So basically 3 minutes of action for the former champ and 1 month's time after wins the title. Arguably the worst title run of all time. Makes no sense. They take the title off of him instead of giving him an awesome title run after the huge moment of Bound for Glory, which, oh, by the way, had their biggest crowd ever, over 7,000 fans. Explain this to me. What is going on here? Like, what the heck is going on in the world of TNA? I thought they were headed in the right direction.
It's inexplicable. You would think your business model is we want to make people excited about our product so they'll watch it on TV and buy tickets. That basic, right?
Yeah.
Well, I've been watching TNA since the beginning, the Wednesday night pay-per-views where like Nikita Koloff popped up one time, the Nashville Fairgrounds, whatever.
Yeah.
And I've watched it on and off over the years, depending on what's going on. Certainly Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, Kurt Angle, all that era, in the mid-aughts. I quit watching it for a couple of years and I came back. Chris Bay, somebody who I knew a little bit, so I was excited to watch somebody who I knew in TNA. And then there were things I liked, things I didn't like. This association with WWE, I'm like, oh, this is cool for NXT. It's cool for TNA. And I became a regular TNA watcher again all the time. I was very excited about Mike Santana. I like when a wrestler in another company who's sort of like spinning their wheels goes to some other company and becomes a big deal. You saw it with Swerve Strickland when he left WWE and went to AEW. You see it with Ricky Starks when he left AEW and now he's the NXT champion. I love that. So Mike Santana did some stuff in AEW that was cool with Ortiz and the tag team. He's a singles guy, but wasn't really doing anything in AEW. Goes to TNA. He's going to be their world champion. People are getting behind it. I'm getting behind it. They did it 3 months too late with their pay-per-views, but they finally did it. Then you don't see him on TV for a month. All right, I'm pissed off about that, but I am glad when they come back. I want to see it, and it's going to be live. Cool. I watch it, and they took the belt off of him and gave it to Frankie Kazarian, and I like Frankie Kazarian, but that's not what needed to happen there. My interest in TNA was up here, and it just, I'm still going to watch it, but it's almost like half hate watching. It's like, I'm a wrestling fan. Are y'all for me or not? Like, what are y'all aren't even WWE? Who the hell do you think you are? Like, Vince got away with this crap because he was the biggest company and people were glutton for punishment. We're going to watch. Y'all are not that, So I don't know. I think it's stupid. Mike Santana would have been great face for that company. Nick Nemeth was their champion. He was like, he's an established commodity. Mike Santana was getting there. He's been around, but you know what I'm saying? He was getting in that sphere. Maybe he still is. I don't know what they do, but like, I haven't seen a single person be like, yeah, that was great booking. I love this. No, universally, that this was terrible.
If anybody, I haven't seen anybody defend it, but if they were to defend, I'm sure they would say, oh, he had his moment. Now we're building to the chase of him getting it back. He didn't even get a title run or a moment or anything because they had no follow-up for a month. They had no shows inexplicably for a month. So the booking of it just literally could be arguably some of the worst booking I've ever seen in my life. I mean, just a terrible booking.
Absolutely. When Dusty Rhodes was world champion when I was a kid, it was never a long run because it is about the chase. But you had a moment where Dusty cut a promo and you had a week or 3 or whatever it was where he was the champion. It meant something. It was a big look when he did it the next time, it would look something like that and you'd care about it. This was not that. This was all, they say anticipation is better or worse than the actual event. The anticipation was like, oh, we're finally going to see Mike Sanders world champion to TNA after a month. It was.
And they tried to do a storyline where he didn't want to show up to the next show. Then he comes out late to the tag match, and you could see in the ring he maybe a little pissed off afterwards, or maybe working a little. But still, it's just like that's the angle they go with after it too. Just horrible book, horrible writing, just not good.
We're recording this on a Thursday, and then I'll watch the show later tonight. I guess it was taped, and Santana has some big promo. I'll see what he says, but like his best promo in the world, I don't think can recover the records the Bookers did. I don't think he did it. Yeah. I'm not blaming him. I think he did the best with what they've given him.
So I have a friend of mine, he loves TNA. So I said, explain this. Like, what, like, best case scenario, what is it? And he's like, well, maybe WWE likes him because he got hot. So I said, so now the relationship with WWE and NXT is terrible because anytime you get a guy and you get him hot, they want him. So you have to take the title off him. I was like, that just sounds, that's not a good case. That's horrible. Kind of happened to Joe Henry too, a little bit, to be honest.
Well, let's say that's what they're doing, that they want Mike Santana in NXT eventually or something like that. He needs to be hot in TNA for a little bit to be to them. So I don't buy that. He's not hot right now, and it's not his fault. He was, and now he's not. And it's whoever booked that.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of vent and get that off my chest. That's just such a bad booking. Like, man, like what are you thinking about over there? Just absolutely crazy. But let's wind it down here. Let's head towards the finish. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 2-Man Power Trip. How about you, Jack? You
can find me at Jack Hunter 74 on X. I'm going to have a big piece in the American Conservative coming out soon that's bashing the hell out of Mark Levin for all the right reasons. And I write, you can find there.
He's going to come after you again.
Good.
He's going to do it.
I'm used to it.
All right. Thank you, everybody out there, for listening. We'll see you right back here next week for a little Capital and Kayfabe.